Changing just one rule in Football Manager completely flipped the Premier League on its head. A team that was almost relegated in real life actually won the Premier League in the first season. And almost all the big clubs sacked their managers in the first season due to poor league performance. One noticeable team that didn't though was Arsenal with Mikel Arteta. So what rule change did I make to cause all of this chaos? It's very simple. In the Premier League matchday squad, you must have all 20 players trained by a club in England, which means Manchester City's new overpowered striker Erling Haaland doesn't count. But Arsenal's Martinelli would, because he trained at Arsenal for 3 years under 22 years of age. But a lot of teams were very dumb, like Manchester United, who didn't even register players like Marcus Rashford, who would clearly qualify for this role to the Premier League squad. And instead, they start the season battling for relegation alongside Liverpool. Right, let's finish the rest of this simulation and see what the aftermath looks like. Okay, we're at the end of the first season. We've got the leagues loaded down to Sky Bet League 2. However, this rule change only applies to the Premier League, and Everton are your very first winners. Now, I didn't set this database up myself. Big thank you to Danny, who messaged me on Instagram, asked if I'd be interested in giving this simulation a run. I did, and it's very good. So big thank you to Danny. If you guys got any ideas like that, feel free to send them my way. So Everton have won the Premier League with 91 points. They were almost relegated in real life. And Leicester came second. Of course, they are actually quite used to being that high. Not so much this season, though. They finished on 88 points. They only had 6 losses. And Arsenal were the only real big team to actually get into the top 4. Aston Villa arguably are quite up there as well, every so often. And Newcastle down in 6th place with Brighton. 2 teams that are usually around about that area when you first run a simulation on Football Manager. However, the big boys, Manchester United and Manchester City, are down there in 10th and 11th place. It does look like Manchester City has won something, as well as Chelsea, who have a ECL Europa Conference League. So maybe they've won a cup competition, because again, it doesn't apply in the cups. Liverpool and Tottenham down in 14th and 15th place. But the relegated teams, I mean, Leeds, Fulham, Wolves, tends to happen quite often with those 3 clubs anyway. So that's not the biggest surprise, really. But Everton winning it certainly is. The goal scorers, 26 goals from Shea Adams, Ollie Watkins and Eddie Nketiah. And that just really staples home how good Arsenal's young side is. Because if you look by appearances, they were able to play the majority of their first team. And yet they still didn't win the league, which does surprise me a little bit. Because if you look at Everton's team, of course, under Sean Dyche, who's done a fantastic job by appearances, they do have a very big core English base, and even the likes of course, Alex Iwobi, who is classed as Nigerian, was trained in England, same as Damari Gray. They have a lot of players who come through the English youth system. A lot of them are playing at Everton, and they're actually quite decent, to be fair. And of course, you've got the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's banging in 23 goals in just 31 appearances, which is not bad. Transfers are still on, so they could, if they're smart enough, buy players, these clubs. Whether that's going to be the case, I don't know. I mean, Manchester City, they had £95 million. You look at the transfers that they brought in, and it doesn't really look good, because they brought in the likes of Chukwueze and Gabriel Barbosa, 2 players they can't even use in the league. So that's quite hilarious, to be fair. They're not really learning their lesson. So going up from the Championship is going to be Middlesbrough, Burnley and Norwich. They should be okay, because they do tend to have quite a lot of English-based players anyway. The reason why, by the way, that Manchester City are qualifying for the Champions League is, would you believe it, they actually won the Champions League final. They beat Atletico Madrid in that final, but they were able to play all of their other players, because that same rule doesn't apply. If you want to see it where I base every single nation, where you're only allowed to play your specific country, that could be a fun video. You need to let me know. So Manchester City, I thought I'd just do it where it's like half and half here, just to see what the outcomes are. But Ancelotti leads Manchester City to glory. Of course, that is because the Premier League has had a lot of managerial changes this season, as I mentioned, and a lot of them were for the big clubs. Liverpool, sacked, now got Diego Simeone. Manchester City now have an interim manager right now, and then Carlo Ancelotti actually took over. Chelsea sacked Graham Potter, now got Zidane, and Luis Enrique is at Manchester United. Now, at the start of this video, we're going to go season by season, but I have gone 30 years into the future just to see the aftermath. Southampton are the champions in the second season. Obviously, they had Shea Adams score quite a lot of goals last season. Adam Armstrong's got 23 this season. Calvert-Lewin's got 25, and Everton finish in second place. Arsenal still there in third, as well as Aston Villa. But oh dear for those Manchester sides, because 20th place for Manchester United, who have sacked their manager once again, and 18th place for Manchester City, again, who sacked their manager. Alongside West Ham, going down with just 17 and 20 points. Liverpool just scraping out of it, and winning some kind of European competition or the FA Cup or something to qualify for European football next season. Things you love to see. The two biggest... Well, the biggest club in Manchester United, but the best club in Manchester City going straight down to the Championship in just season number 2. So, all of the clubs that came up, they survived. Middlesbrough, Norwich, I think it was Burnley. Yeah, it was Burnley, who managed to survive in mid-table. They've done absolutely fine. We're all good. What about the clubs that went down? Well, remember, even though that they went back down, they don't have that rule now. So... Wolves and Leeds did manage to get themselves back promoted. Fulham got to the playoffs but could not get promoted. West Brom beat them there in the playoffs. Did they beat them in the final? No, they were knocked out in the semi-final by West Brom. So they did get eliminated by West Brom. 3-0 in one game, 2-0 in the other. So unfortunately for Fulham, they're the first casualty of being stuck now in the Championship, one of the hardest divisions to get out. But you're going to see plenty more. So we'll go back another season, we'll go forward another season and see where the Manchester clubs end up. Season number 3, it is back-to-back Premier League titles for Southampton. Arsenal are getting a little bit closer now, which is a little bit worrying, because obviously if they get better every single season, they might start buying these English clubs. I think Mikel Arteta is probably the smartest manager out of the top 6 and has realised the problem. Going down this season, though, is Burnley, Wolves and Leeds. That's a shame, isn't it? They didn't really last that long back in the Premier League. But, yeah, I mean, the other big clubs are still holding on there. Liverpool and Chelsea and Tottenham, the 3 positions just outside relegation. And Chelsea seem to be doing really well still in Europe. They have Pep Guardiola as their manager, which is quite funny. They do have quite a lot of homegrown talents you can see here, but they're loaning players like Conor Gallagher out. Why would you loan Conor Gallagher out to somebody? They loaned him out to the champions. Why would you loan him out when you literally need him at your club? Just makes no sense. Now, I'm wondering whether the deeper you go into this, the more that youth intakes will play a big part, whether clubs will start to hoard their youth intakes or whether they'll be happy to sell them. I'm a little bit unsure about that, whether they become smart about the rules or not, because it doesn't look like they are right now. Now, speaking of the 2 Premier League clubs, the 2 Manchester clubs that dropped out the Premier League, Manchester City were champions, Manchester United were second place. It's no real surprise. What is a surprise is they kept hold of Erling Haaland, who I don't know. Did he tear up the Championship? Not really. Not really. 22 goals in 38 games. I've seen him score way more in the 38 Premier League games. So that's quite underwhelming, isn't it? They got Roberto De Zerbi as their manager. De Bruyne is down there. Imagine being a Championship club and going and watching Erling Haaland play, because look at the Plymouth's in there for example. My home club, they're in the Championship this season. I can't wait to go to a few games and take my son for the very first time to his first football match. And we're playing some big clubs this year in the Championship. Never would I ever expect to see Manchester United and Manchester City there and get to see Erling Haaland play at home park. But I would. Wayne Rooney is the manager. He makes some questionable choices, doesn't he, Wayne Rooney? I mean, the stuff he says about the Glazers, it makes you think, are you up there? Is everything okay up there, Wayne? Because the stuff that you say is absolutely bonkers. So, yes, next season's going to be looking a little bit more normal because West Ham are also joining the 2 Manchester clubs. But can they survive? I don't know. Now, in the next season, the inevitable happened and Arsenal are champions. They've been there or thereabouts all 4 seasons so far, and they've managed to do it this time round with 91 points. It is still Mikel Arteta. They are running the likes of Bukayo Saka obviously an incredible player from their youth academy, and they are actually registering him, unlike the Manchester clubs, who got themselves relegated alongside Tottenham Hotspur once again on 20 points, 19 and 13 for Manchester City, who also qualified for the ECL. Now, that means that they've won some kind of cup competition the season before that, which I'm really shocked with. So, did they win the EFL Cup, maybe? It looks like they've done something. I don't really know. I don't know how they've managed to pull that off, because they've been eliminated both times there. Or maybe they won the EFL Cup this season after beating Arsenal. So, they beat Liverpool. It's because Liverpool is just terrible. Testimony Gervin. They're literally playing like people who don't exist. And as you can see as well, they're doing really stupid things. They're buying loads of players and then loaning them out because they can't physically play them. So, I mean, some of the players here, you can't play this guy. So they've listed him immediately. They're being very silly dingleberries, aren't they? Because look at the signings at 500 million. And they couldn't play any of these players? One. Actually, no, I don't think he could. Nope, he didn't. They literally couldn't play any of the £500 million spent. They did sell 448, granted, and a lot of their big players now who finally got sick of not being able to play in the Premier League, they all left. But what is going on? Why are you so dumb? Same as Manchester United, like they're no better. They're making silly decisions. They also don't have a manager. They bought Ruben Neves by the looks of it, and Toni Kroos, and they're just not able to do anything. £195 million they sold. Jadon Sancho, he would have qualified. Yeah, to Southampton, who were up there. Casemiro, Alessandro Martinez. Yeah, these players that obviously wouldn't make it, but then they're signing none of them. Again, nobody could play for them. It's very silly. And the next season sees Manchester United stay in the Championship. We have our first big casualty. Tottenham and Manchester City have both gone up. Burnley are going up with them. Manchester United lost in the playoff final on penalties to Burnley. Plymouth Argyle there in 7th place. So, we're going to start to see the downfall of a big club now. Manchester City, thankfully, have gone up for them, as well as Spurs. Everton are back winning the league title, though. Come on, Everton, let's go. Bournemouth and Southampton are getting Champions League football. So, what I'm curious with now is who is winning the Champions League? Are these clubs managing to challenge for it? Arsenal have just won it. They beat PSG in the final. So, Arsenal are having a great time with this rule. They are absolutely loving it. Same can't be said for the rest of the Big Six. Newcastle this season going down with all their money. Wolves have gone down with 5 wins. Just 1 win, 5 points, sorry. 1 win against Stoke away. And that is dreadful. Okay, I've jumped another 5 seasons into the future. So we're at 2032 now. And the Premier League is being won by Stoke City. Unbelievable. Rory Delap and Tony Pulis would be loving it. Now, Arsenal have been winning a couple every now and then as well, but currently Stoke is being managed by Gattuso. Yeah, they've got even Fresneda. I don't know how they're getting away with some of the... Oh my God, look how good this player is. And they've managed... Do they play him in the Premier League? They don't. See, this is the problem. He is probably ranked as one of their best players. 174 ability. They spent only £21 million on him, which is mental. And they cannot use him in the Premier League because he's too old to use in the Premier League. So the players that they must be using every single week, who's scoring all their goals? John Duran. Did they sign him early? Yeah, so he's come through, I think it was Blackburn's youth academy there, and he's played quite a lot of time in his early career. So they've done quite well in managing to hold on to quite a lot of these players who would still be registered despite being a different nationality, like Julio and Ciso there, who's from Paraguay. So they've done quite well, really. They've managed to almost like cheat the system in a way. Arsenal are still there or thereabouts, and it looks like they're there pretty much every single season. If you flick through, Arsenal won, they come second again, then they won. So they've been there or thereabouts, second or first, every single season. They're doing really well. Is it still Arteta? It is. They've got Jude Bellingham now. Come on. 28 years of age in his prime. They've just signed him for £79 million. He qualifies and can play Premier League games. Smart from Mikel Arteta. That's why he is probably the smartest manager on Football Manager. Going down this season once again is Manchester City with only 1 win and 9 points. They are doing awful. They've got Næstrup as their manager there, the Danish. They've got Tammy Abraham, and he's only played one game. What happened there? They had him on a free transfer last year in the Championship. Why are they not registering any players? I don't understand it. It's so confusing. Even when they get players that qualify, they still don't use them. Manchester United are doing okay. They're there, and they're doing all right in mid-table. It looks like this guy played quite a lot of games, their best player, so they actually signed him as well. So they signed him for £47 million and still registered him, still played him. So they're being a little bit smarter. But where did they go up and down? Oh my god, they've been a yo-yo club. So this is where we left them, where they finished third and didn't get promoted. Then they got promoted, finishing second place. Then they were 20th again the following season, 8th place. Then they've just been promoted as champions of the Championship, and then finished in a 10th place finish there, so not so bad. There is some big teams missing though. Where's Liverpool? Where is Liverpool? Tottenham have just lost there in the playoff final. Newcastle are champions. Are they going up and down? They've been a yo-yo club. They've gone up and down the last 5 seasons as well. Liverpool are in the Championship in 17th place. Unbelievable. They were promoted and then relegated, finishing 19th. Steven Gerrard is their manager. How long has he been there? 2032. He's only just joined, and he's only he was manager before as well for a year and got sacked from them. So yeah, he's not doing too good either, but they've gone up and gone down, which is quite funny. West Ham are there. So are there any other clubs from the Premier League who's on a massive nosedive? We've got Wrexham, who've gone up into the Championship, by the way. That'd be interesting, because now they're thereabouts, aren't they, with some of the Premier League boys. It doesn't look like, obviously, Luton would be, but they're not in this version of Football Manager. I think we're all good. I think the lowest that we've seen a club in the Premier League so far is the Championship. Another 5 years then into the future. We're 15 seasons now. Premier League, Everton are your champions. Newcastle have recovered really well. They finished in second place. Everton have won 5 in a row. So, Evertonians, this is all you need to happen to be good again. What does surprise me is Arsenal's dropped all the way down to 16th. What a fall from grace that is. Obviously, they were winning and there or thereabouts second each time. They then finished second 3 seasons in a row, dropped down to 5th, then dropped down to 13th. So, the season they dropped down to 5th was the 2035 end of the season. How long ago did they get rid of? Oh my god, they got rid of them ages ago. 35. What? So okay, so Mikel Arteta resigned. Where is he now? He's managing AC Milan, and that was the ultimate downfall. They even won Champions League trophies, of course, with Mikel Arteta, and then it all went wrong. They went from De Zerbi to Garitano to Jurgen Klopp, who lasted 1 season, and then to Knutson, who won the Carabao Cup, but have dropped all the way down into 16th place. Hilarious! Chelsea have just got themselves relegated. Is that for the first time? No, they were relegated, came back up as champions, then they go back down again, so that's the first time. John McGinn is their manager, which is even more funny, but I don't see a lot of the big clubs. Manchester City are there. They got Marco Rose. They have been a yo-yo club all the way until this point. 11th place last season, 10th place this season. They're finally surviving on what probably is their youth academy products. They've got Tottenham Hotspur just above them there in 9th place with Sandro Schwartz as their manager. So a lot of these clubs now are finding somewhat success, despite obviously not winning anything like they used to. Now the Sky Bet Championship is gonna have some of the big clubs, I'm sure. Southampton. Oh my, what happened, Southampton? You were so good for ages. They were relegated not so long ago after some mid-table stuff, but they were back-to-back champions at one point in the first couple of seasons. Now they got Joby McAnuff, who I think does like the EFL goals. So it's quite weird seeing him as a manager. And he's not a bad manager actually either. Like, what is going on there? Like, very strange. I know he does like the goal show for the EFL games. Weird. Okay, now he's actually managing in the EFL, but they're going back up to the Premier League, which is nice for him. Nottingham Forest also having the same situation, but look how many Premier League clubs are in the Sky Bet Championship, including Manchester United, who have stayed there for 4 seasons in a row now. Oh, it's drastic times, and they've got players like this who they can't even play in the Premier League should they ever go up anyway. This is the end of Old Trafford, isn't it? Of being one of the scariest places. Same as Liverpool. We can suffer together, Liverpool fans, because we're all terrible. We are all awful. So any clubs teetering down in League One, Wrexham are back up. Oh, no, they're not. They lost in the playoff final there, next to Plymouth there. But we've got no Premier League sides that I can see, unless I'm blind, because every time I say something like that, somebody goes, oh, you missed so-and-so. What? Time stamp this, time stamp. I can't see anybody else. I think we're all good. 5 more years later then. What has changed? Stoke are still champions. Well, they're not still champions. They are winning stuff. Newcastle won 3 in a row. West Brom. Yes, look at that. West Brom were champions for 1 season. They finished in 2nd place as well. Manchester City just surviving this season. Who is their manager now? Jay Stansfield. So they were relegated last season, back up as winners of the championship last season. So they did end up going back down. But I don't see any Manchester United or Liverpool. Tottenham were relegated this season as well. They got Didier Degarde as their manager. They've been surviving for a while, but now, nope, they are 20th, which is quite funny, to be fair. Now, other clubs, Chelsea, have they survived ever since? They were a yo-yo club for a while. They've just come back and survived under Brian there, I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. Championship clubs, Manchester United have just survived 5 points, and they were almost down. Arsenal went down. Oh my God, Max Aarons is their manager as well. They've been a yo-yo club. What other managers has been in? Look how many different managers there's been since Arteta. Less than 10 years ago. This is no joke. This is actual hiding the caretaker managers. Legitimately the full managers. We've had De Zerbi, Garitano, Klopp, Knutson, Brereton, Diaz, Oliver Cooper, John McGinn, Eddie Howe, and now Max Aarons. And none of them have brought success back to North London in Arsenal, the red side. Carabao Cup win there for Eddie Howe. But other than that, no, it's been dreadful for Arsenal. So fair enough. They've really struggled, to be fair. Let's take a look then in the other divisions. Do we have anybody else falling down that we can note? We've got... I still think they're just surviving. Unless Manchester United have just come back up. If they've been relegated, no. So they haven't. Oh my God, Scott McTominay's their manager. No wonder why. No wonder why they're never coming back up. This is hiding the caretaker manager as well. They've had the same managers as other teams that we have seen. They've had John Stones, Joby McAnuff, Dennis Zakaria. What is happening, and why have they gone for Scott McTominay? Is he a good manager? He's not bad. It's just Scott McTominay, isn't it? It's very unlikable when you see how he plays sometimes. But other than that, okay, I am intrigued by the Champions League, though. What's been happening for the Champions League? Real Madrid are your winners. Everton have won 2 Champions Leagues. Lovely stuff. Now, Arsenal were the last English club to win it in 2027, but ever since then, it's been dominated by mainly PSG, and Real Madrid have been just adding to their total. The runners-up's quite interesting because it is Porto and Monaco, back-to-back seasons. Of course, they actually played each other in a very famous final, managed by Jose Mourinho for Porto. But then Everton won back-to-back against PSG and against Inter Milan, so that's quite nice. Unfortunately, now they're down in 12th place. So they've dropped off and no longer in the Champions League, which is a shame. Okay, for the final time then, we are 10 seasons into the future and West Brom are champions, but it has been dominated by Southampton. Liverpool won one as well, you little cheeky buggers, you. Winning the 2045-46 season. After we've seen them be awful for ages. West Brom are the current champions though, with Everton back in the Champions League spots. Don't hate that at all. We don't see one of the Manchester clubs. I don't think I can see either of them. No. Arsenal are back up there, though. They've survived this season. Newcastle have gone back down despite obviously being winners 12 seasons ago. So it's, in this time, it seems like it doesn't seem that long time ago. But in the actual fact, it would be 12 seasons. It wouldn't be too bad, would it? Tottenham there in 4th place. So they've done quite well to survive and then actually grow into the Premier League, which is quite nice. Now, West Brom is being managed by somebody who we don't know. It's a new gen, so we're going to find that happening quite often, to be fair. And they've got a new stadium, which they've very smartly named the West Brom Stadium. Obviously, you know, we've got some managers that we might recognise, some of them that we won't. This guy's called Elvis, and he's got a big ginger mop. That's funny. And he's from Bosnia. Fair enough. That's the manager of Southampton. What about them? Where are the 2 Manchester clubs? Where can we find them? Manchester United have just been relegated into Sky Bet League 1. If that's the first time, we have to come back again and check it. No. They've been in Sky Bet League 1 before, and they were promoted straight away. They've gone down the lowest. That has to be. It has to be the lowest. Out of all of the Premier League sides so far, that has to be the lowest. They've gone down with Salford, which is hilarious because obviously the class of 92 owns Salford. So they've reached the same point as Manchester United and then both gone down together. Manchester City, have you survived? You've been okay. You've gone up, you've come back down. And Ter Stegen's your manager. I respect it. I didn't see who the Man United manager was. It's somebody that we don't recognise. And again, if we hide the caretakers, it's a lot of people we don't recognise. How long does Scott McTominay last? Only 246 days, then he left. Kieran Tierney took over, which is hilarious. And Scott Hogan too. Which, yeah, it tells you the calibre. I mean, Scott McTominay now. He left to go to Hull. And then ever since, he's had a managerial job every single year, pretty much, after just leaving Birmingham. So we'll go into Sky Bet League 1 and just see if there's nobody down there, because I probably suspect that Sky Bet League 1 is the lowest that we have seen a Premier League club that we know right now go, and it is definitely that. So I'm going to go one last season just to see if Manchester United manage to get themselves promoted again, or will they forever teeter down in the lower leagues. Right, so that one season has passed and the Premier League champions are West Brom once again. They make it a three-peat, only losing one game away to Liverpool. They have an exceptional team. This is their top scorer. Of course, attribute masking is enabled on this save, which I couldn't change, by the way. But we can see like his value and everything because the editor was open. So he's only 150? That's mental. He looks way better than that. Their best player is this guy. I'm going to check the World Cups and everything as well, because I'm wondering whether it's made England even better than what they usually are. Ipswich, West Ham and Stoke going down, which is quite, sad for Stoke fans who had some kind of like joy and championships recently. Chelsea are winning stuff. Liverpool have recovered and doing all right now, which annoying because we were suffering together recently. Now you've decided not to do that. In the championship though, we don't have anybody. Oh, Manchester City, they didn't go up, did they? They stayed there, as well as Newcastle. So going up with Brentford, Burnley and Cardiff. But the big story is, did Manchester United save themselves and win? They lost in the playoff final, and they only lost the league to a point to the mighty Plymouth Argyle. Would you believe it? Oh my God, they lost in the playoff final to Southend. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Still with the same manager that they had previously. 75,000 seater. Can we see their attendance for home games? So 34,000. They're only half filling out Old Trafford, which is very unrealistic because in real life, well, not unrealistic for the Sky Bet League 1, obviously, but in real life, it is like gold dust trying to find a game which doesn't have a sellout for Manchester United. So that is hilarious that they failed to get themselves promoted. Now, the Champions League for the last 10 years or whatever it was, has it been won? West Brom have won it there. That's good. But other than that, nobody since Everton. So it hasn't done England any favours, this Premier League move. And it is still the highest competition reputation, but it wasn't for a while by the looks of it. It was second for a while. So I don't understand quite how that really works, the coefficients, because I haven't got the other leagues loaded. If I had all the other leagues loaded, it might have made a difference. But England, have they won any World Cups? They are the holders. They're the holders. They haven't won it other than now. So they are the current holders, but other than that, they haven't won it. They're currently third place there. They've got a world-class goalkeeper who, no shock, is playing for West Brom. So that is this experiment. If you have any other ideas that you'd like to see me try, by all means, let me know down in the comment section. And why not check out this video? Because I took R9 Ronaldo and I restarted his career age 16, and he had a fantastic time.